When the COVID pandemic finally showed signs of ebbing a year ago, the world was largely relieved. But have we really placed the era of quarantines and infections behind us? Norovirus, adenovirus, H1N1, the rhinovirus, tomato fever, and the common flu have arrived to haunt every household in India, struggling to break free from the pandemic blues. Hi, you're listening to Onmanorama's Explainer podcast, News Break, a weekly show that breaks down news in a clutter-free manner. This is your host, Harita Benjamin, and in this episode, we talk about the rising infections among children in the post-COVID era. So I had half a mind to skip this week's episode due to a severe throat infection. But then I thought I should make an episode out of it. So folks, do forgive me for my terrible voice this time, but we are here to get to the bottom of these infections that have been plaguing and disrupting the sleep of every household in India. Today we have with us Dr. Sajna TM, who is a pediatrics consultant at the Aster Medicity in Kochi, to throw some light on the issue for us. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sajna. Let's start with the facts. Have you observed a significant rise in the number of patients that approach you with respiratory ailments in the post-pandemic era? Now, is this due to a lower immunity on account of the lack of exposure during the lockdown period? Or is it because of the use of masks? Is there any reason for this rise, if it is there?
Yes, Harida, actually, if you come into that, I think every pediatrician would have observed that there is a significant rise in the number of patients which is approaching to us with a respiratory ailment. If you come to the cause, I think if you ask me what particularly, we might not be able to completely tell it out. But if you ask me, this thing mostly it looks like previous exposure to an infective agent or a viral, like something like that, provides some level of resistance to that virus. When there was a COVID time, the kids were mostly in their respective homes. And during that time, they had less chances of getting immune naturally. And this, I think, would have caused them to become vulnerable to all the common viral infection. And that's why there is a recurrence, because right now the kids have come out of their home and they're going to school, and they're getting exposed and they're not able to get to the track. Last 2 years, they were been inside and they have not got exposure to the common viral infection which was there. And that is one of the reasons I feel which would have caused the increasing number of patients with respiratory ailment. Because we right now see almost to the OP which are right now coming, the kids, the increasing number, almost all the age what we see is below the 10 years. More than the 10 years, we are seeing less people getting chances of respiratory illness. But less than 10 years, there is a lot of increase in numbers. And that is because the kids are just right now getting adapted. So hopefully within the years, we are also praying that the kids will get adapted to these common viral infections.
All right. And what is your recommendation when it comes to masks? There are, two different theories. That the usage of masks is, restricting our respiration in a proper level. And there is also an argument that it is making us more susceptible to the infection. So what is your take on that? Should children be adopting more masks or should they be let free?
Usage, in a way, it's good. Because if you ask me, there are kids who are becoming safe with usage of mask, because a lot of viral infection which spreads through the droplet or everything is getting shielded. But if you ask me the disadvantage, one thing is that the small kids, they don't know how to use their proper mask. We are seeing that the kids exchange the mask, seeing the pictures or what the kind of mask they have. And when they come home, the parents say that this was not the mask which was sent to the school. So that kind of thing is also there, which increases the rate of infection. But I think if the teachers do account to that in the school, if they take care, I think this can prevent majority of the infection, and with the proper hygiene also.
The names of different kinds of infections pop up in the media every week. There's the norovirus, the adenovirus, the tomato fever, and of course there are different types of flu which has been seen across Kerala. Now, could you impart some insight on what are the different types of infections which are commonly seen amongst children nowadays?
Yeah, because the common viral infection, as you said, Harida, which we see as influenza. This is like influenza A and B, the norovirus, the adenovirus, the rotavirus, now different types of enterovirus, which was causing almost the hand, foot, mouth disease and herpangina. And we have seen an increase in eye infection. And right now, there's a season which is going for a varicella, that means the chicken pox. Initially, the school started, we were seeing a lot of respiratory illness with the hand, foot, mouth disease and herpangina. After that gets settled, then it became more of, the influenza virus. Then it came like the adenovirus, and then there was a norovirus. Right now, in this situation, again the influenza virus and it's come back, and also norovirus is leading and chickenpox. So this is the most common, which we know. There are a lot of things which we does not know which virus is causing, but common virus which is causing these infections are influenza A and B and norovirus right now, because we are getting a lot of gastroenteritis, and the kids are becoming very sick. They are coming with vomiting, loose motions, then recurrent respiratory illness, and they are getting multiple times the same thing. Like once they get this thing, it does not mean they are shielded. They come back to us with the same infection after 2-3 weeks.
Right, that is an interesting viewpoint. Now, most of these infections affect and compromise the respiratory function of children, right? So, most patients are reporting wheezing and asthmatic issues because of that. Now, what could be the reason for this? And why are children more affected than adults when it comes to respiratory infections?
Yeah, if you ask me that, even the most common, I think, will be the increasing environmental pollution. That might be the reason, because a lot of pollutions or pollutants or triggers, which was less before, has come more right now. And coming into the adults, why they are less affected is because they are more immune compared to the children. Because when the children, right now they are going out to schools, they are getting exposed to many other things, play areas, outdoors, and parents are also sending the kids to school when they having even cold or when they are sick, because they just like think, okay, last week the child took leave, so right now it is okay, let them go to school. And when that kid goes to school, the kid is spreading the virus to the other kids. And the most common complaint what we get from the parents are, right now in the school there are a lot of absenteeism. The kids one is getting recovered, and then when the child is still having symptoms, they go back to the school, and from that child gives back to another child, and they come back and again give to the same child. So this is the trend which is happening. So to the parents, if I say, make them stay at home, make them completely recover, and then send to the school, because their kids also will be safe and the other kids also will be safe with this.
Right.
And adults, because they are more immune. They are growing, they have grown up. The children are just getting adapted.
All right. Now let's, move on to the other symptom, which is commonly seen right now. A commonly reported symptom among the fever-ridden children is the intractable cough. Even adults, including me, suffer from this persistent cough, which refuses to bow out. What could be the reason for this, according to you? And more importantly, is there a way to put a stop to this?
Okay. Coming into this, I think if you ask me, the most common what we see in OPD is the intractable cough, or parents come with telling that the cough is happening since 3-4 months or is not going. These are the most common cause will be viral infection. To what specify, we might not know, because we are not testing everything what is coming to us. So since most of the viral infection it comes to us, we do not give any specific antivirals. And that might be the reason it takes its own time to settle. And if you ask me, any other reason we have to find, because we don't label any kids who come to us like a child is asthma. We usually see how the child's track is, and we label them like the child is having respiratory allergy, and we look into the other factors. Some kids which comes like to us will have other triggers, like some child will be having adenoids, which is the cause of night coughs more. So if you ask them the history, we might get to think that the child might be having adenoids, and if you treat that, the cough will go. And some children will be getting triggered, some allergens which is there, some pollen, some dust, or anything which is there. That might be the reason which is happening with the intractable cough. So if you at least we tell the parents to keep their home safe, because we can't tell the parents to keep the outside environment clean. At least the home where the child is staying, there's a environment dust and all. At least they will be fine more. That is the other thing, because we can't treat every virus with an antiviral. We don't know. But it all defines, like mostly if you come to the last, taking all the histories from the parents, we usually get to the thing that it might be mostly respiratory allergy. We usually don't tell the child will become an asthmatic or the child will go into any other situation. Over the time, some kids get adapted to these environment and they usually come out of these cough. And the next thing, that sometimes we might have to treat the cause like adenoids. And if it is typically if it is an allergy, then if you give some inhalers, which that might also take out of all these coughs, and we can make it controlled rather than completely preventing.
All right. Now, coming to one of the major concerns which parents have echoed, across the state and the country, many parents are concerned about the antibiotics which they have to feed their kids time and again. And often, there are situations where you can't, let go of antibiotics because the situation worsens to a point where you have no other option. Now, another concern is the nebulization sessions which the kids have to go through if they are asthmatic. Now, my question is, parents are concerned about, feeding their kids this much amount of medicine. Do you have any insights to offer on this regard? Does it affect the long-term health of our children?
Yeah. If you ask me, no. It's only a temporary thing and has no long-term effect. And usually when we prescribe, the doctors prescribe nebulization and antibiotic when the child requires and when the child is sick. Other than that, we usually don't give if there is no requirement. And that nebulization and antibiotic taking will have only that time's effect, no long-term effect. And if it's caused some allergy, we usually stop. Other than that, there is no long-term effect. And it's very clear, I'm telling you, it's only prescribed and taken if the doctors are given. It should not be taken like themselves. That is the only thing. Because we usually see parents taking themselves nebulization when the cough starts. That we usually don't recommend.
Right. Now, my next question is, with infections becoming rampant among school-going children, most parents use over-the-counter drugs to put their kids at ease, right? So could you elaborate on the dangers of this? Are there any drugs at all which can be used without prescription?
Yeah. If you ask me that, then of course there is drugs like paracetamol and saline nasal drops can be taken without prescription. If it can be, paracetamol can be taken as per the child's weight and the required interval. That can be taken safely at home for 2 to 3 days. After that, the child is having again fever, definitely has to visit and the doctor, and also you can use saline nasal drops. That also does not have anything that can any much side effect or anything, which can be taken without prescription. And coming into the other question, what you asked me, the rampant use of antibiotics without consulting doctor will definitely lead to antibiotic resistance. So that's what I'm telling you, because you have seen many parents taking medicines or giving the child medicines. We would have returned the medicines last week or 1 month back. When the child develops some symptoms which was similar to last time, the parents go out to the medical pharmacy and they get the medicines and they give themselves. And they come back to us when the fever or the symptoms are not settling on 4th day and tell us, we took the same medicines what doctor gave us last time. So that we usually don't recommend. It should be only taken when the required doctor says it. So paracetamol and saline nasal drops can be taken without any prescription.
Right. Next question is, when is it a good time to approach the doctor when kids fall sick? Of course, the temperature can be controlled with the paracetamol, as you said. There are, time and again when kids show fast breathing signs and, palpitation and symptoms of the sort, which are a little alarming for parents. Also adding to that, how important is monitoring the temperature and oxygen saturation levels in a child?
Okay. So as you asked right now, like as I said, paracetamol can subside or can bring down the temperature. But right now at this, what is happening since last month, all the temperature which is happening or the kids is getting right now is more very high grade fever. So it's like 104, 104, 105 is the temperature what we usually get right now. So the parents are becoming very alarming because that was not the trend what was before. They used to have only temperature 100, 101, 102 was the maximum. Right now, all the kids are having more than 103, 104 in the first 24 to 48 hours. So if I tell you, high grade fever which is lasting for more than 2 days, and as you said, when there is rapid breathing or the child is found to have breathlessness, or if the child is having poor activity or poor oral intake, or if you feel the urine output is reduced and the child is having vomiting, persisting vomiting, and all the things that parents do feel the child is looking sick, of course get a medical attention, because right now we are seeing that the kids are becoming very sick, like not like before. They are getting more sick right now. So in these conditions, all these danger signs, if the parents feel, bring them to emergency or to the OP at the earliest. And coming into the other question, what you asked me about the temperature, of course, temperature monitoring at home is a good thing because we usually get an idea of how is the pattern. That is actually good. And based on that, the parents can give the paracetamol also rather than just giving blindly. And the oxygen saturation, if you feel the child is having breathlessness or if you feel there is a rapid breathing, then only. Other than that, I don't think you have to keep on monitoring oxygen. But temperature chart, definitely. That will be good enough.
Right. So, to end our session, let me ask you the one question every parent has. What can be done to keep infections at bay?
So as I discussed before also, I told that the hygiene, hand hygiene, putting mask, then overcrowding. That is one of the most common reason, which is the rapid spread of infections right now. And something which we can't tell the parents because they do come worrying, telling that the kids are getting every week infection or every week fever. So for that, whatever we can offer will be mostly some kids are not properly vaccinated. They are not vaccinated with the pneumococcal vaccination like that and all. If they are not vaccinated routinely, that routine vaccines would be very good it will be an add-on plus a yearly influenza vaccine. That actually over the last 4-5 years, it has been very regular. And the parents, we have seen that the parents who have taken influenza vaccine to the kids, they usually show very good improvement. Now, I'm not telling it will be good to every infections or every fevers, but at least we usually see there is a reducible number of fevers after taking influenza yearly vaccines. So if you take the routine vaccines along with the yearly vaccines, there will be some shield for the kids.
Thank you, Doctor. Thanks a lot for joining us on Newsbreak. That brings us to the end of our 54th episode of the podcast. Newsbreak, an explainer podcast produced by Harita Benjamin with technical production from Idea Brew Studios, comes out every Thursday. It is available on all podcast platforms. So see you next Thursday.